Ultimately, Complexity is going to be able to pull it out, and they are going to be crowned your 2014 World Champion winners here.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 of COD Talks. I am your host, Furs95, and lots to get to today. We got a lot of stuff to break down for you. But first, I just wanted to start off by saying, I think just for some housekeeping things, I think what I'm going to do for these next few weeks is my plan is to have a CWL Atlanta preview exclusive episode. And that's probably going to go up Thursday. That's the plan, day before the tournament starts, or the tournament kicks off on Friday, obviously. And then I think the regular episode for next week will be pushed to Monday. That way I can kind of break down the results of CWL Atlanta and all that. So that's kind of the plan, the tentative plan for now. I'll tweet out if anything changes on the Twitter. But other than that, that is the plan for now. So without further ado, let's get into the topics. So the first thing I want to talk about, obviously, is Division A Week 4. That's the most recent week that we all just saw. It was an interesting week, very interesting week. A lot of good matches. And obviously, it was the last week of the Pro League before CWL Atlanta. The Pro League is not over, though, just to make note, but it was, I believe that was the last week for Division A. So the final results for Division A are as follows. We've got Rise Nation with a 13-1 record and a 40-12 map count at number 1. Optic Gaming with a 10-4 record and a 34-20 map count. Red Reserve at number 3 with a 9-5 record and a 34-23 map count. Team Caliber at number 4 with an 8-6 record and a 30-28 map count. Echo Fox at number 5 with a 6-8 record and a 27-29 map count. Era Eternity at a 5-9 record with a 23-33 map count. Mind Freak at number 7 with a 4-10 record and a 22-34 map count. And Team Vitality at number 8 with a 1-13 record and a 10-41 map count. To start off, I mean, I gotta start with Rise. Rise has just been dominant in this group. They really made a statement that last night, I think, what was that, Thursday night? Last night. Just dominating Optic. That was a statement match for sure. And I know that the match in the grand scheme of things didn't mean anything in terms of placings, but it was a match that, I'm sure both teams, there's no doubt. I mean, I don't want to hear about how Optic wasn't trying or anything like that. That's stupid. There's no reason not to try. You want to make a statement as a team, and there's no doubt that the guys on Optic were trying to do that, but Rise just came out and slapped them. I mean, there's just no other way to put it. It was a complete and total domination, really. The SND was kind of close, but big stories of the series really were, I mean, Scump just had arguably he would probably be the first one to admit, one of the worst series he's probably ever had in his Call of Duty career, and that's saying something considering how long he's been competing for. And so, I think that it's a series that wasn't too shocking to a lot of us because of the way Rise have been playing and how inconsistent Optic has been. But I think people also look too much into a series like this and assume that, Rise is the clear-cut better team and this and that. It's just, it was one series. And, we got to wait and see. We got to wait and see what happens in CWL Atlanta because, yes, Rise looked impressive. Yes, Optic have looked inconsistent, but, you got to wait and see what happens when there's actual, when there's something on the line. I mean, this match was essentially meaningless, as I mentioned earlier. So, I don't look too much into it. I think that Rise, no doubt, has looked impressive and Optic has been inconsistent. But, just to reiterate, I mean, we got to wait and see. We got to wait and see what happens in CWL Atlanta. And I'm really excited. I guess another thing to note about this, obviously, like I've touched on already, is that Optic at number 2 in the division, they've looked pretty goddamn inconsistent these past several weeks. You don't really know what you're going to get from Optic at this point. I mean, they could come out and get reverse swept by Era, then come out and mop the floor with team caliber, and they were Rise's only loss in the Pro League. So, we obviously know this Optic Gaming roster is incredibly talented. It is the best roster ever assembled in competitive Call of Duty history. I mean, let's be honest. And they're a team you can't just ignore. You cannot. I mean, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, and that is Optic Gaming. And you got to go. I mean, they for all of their inconsistencies in World War II, they're still a team that you got to go through. Odds are you're going to have to go through them to win major LAN events and to be at the top. So, I'm as an Optic Gaming fan, I want to try and put my personal biases aside. But I mean, I'll be honest, I'm a little worried going into CW Atlanta. I'm not going to lie, but I think that it's really helped them play. These Pro League matches have been really good for them, and for all teams, to be honest. It's great. It's obviously there's a lot on the line, but it's also great practice for major LAN tournaments because of the fact that it's in a LAN environment. You're really only focused when it is your week to compete is just getting better at the game. I mean, that's really your only focus. You heard Krim talk about it on a hot mic the other night about how they're constantly scrimming when they're not actually playing their matches, and so that's I hope that they take something and they really you see improvement, because we have the first two tournaments, they just haven't looked great. They haven't really taken out any of the top teams. I'm really interested to see. The problem is that they've lost to teams that they just shouldn't be losing to. I mean, Era Eternity, you just can't do that and expect to win major LAN tournaments. They know that more than anyone. So it's just, I don't know. It's just, to me, as far as Optic Gaming goes, it just comes down to what do we get from them? Which Optic Gaming do we get? Do we get a fired up, motivated, focused Optic Gaming, or do we get a sloppy, complacent Optic Gaming? And that's what it's going to come down to with this roster. There's really nothing else to it. As we go down the list of the final standings here in Division A, Red Reserve, I think they kind of slowed down their last few matches. They're still a team that's dangerous. They're a dangerous EU team, but they've been a little inconsistent as well. I think the thing with Red is that they have no doubt proven that they can compete with the top teams. They've taken out Optic Gaming multiple times already in World War II. They've taken out TK, so they're a team that you can't look past. They're a heavy hitter. There's no doubt. And I would say they're Europe's best team right now. I think Splice has been a little too inconsistent. And I would even though Red's been inconsistent as well, I think that so far Red has been the slightly their form just seems to be a little bit better than Splice's right now. So I would definitely say they're still the top EU team coming into CWL Atlanta. And I'm interested to see what they can do, because like I said, I really think they've already proven that they can compete with anyone and beat anyone. So it'll be interesting to see what they bring to CWL Atlanta. As we keep going down, TK has just been kind of in turmoil. I know that they came out in 3-0. I think was it Echo Fox that they 3-0'd the other night? They came out in 3-0. I think it was either Echo Fox or Red Reserve. And that was just a huge sigh of relief for TK fans, and I'm sure for the players as well, because they needed that victory just for moral confidence. I mean, I don't know what the fuck I just said, moral confidence, just for confidence. But anyways, just TK. They've just been it feels like they've really been in this downward spiral. Really, ever since. It's kind of ever since they started talking shit, to be honest, and kind of ever since Maven put the curse on them, which is pretty funny to think about. But TK, they're still, in my eyes, the team to beat going into CWL Atlanta, despite their recent form, just because they've won the only 2 major LAN events we've had so far. So while I wouldn't say that they're the favorite because of their current form, I would still say they're definitely a team to beat, and I would argue still the team to beat. So you can't count them out. They've had a magical run so far in World War II, and I guess we'll have to see if they can kind of turn things around from their recent form and see what they can do coming into Atlanta. And then as we keep going down the list, Echo Fox at number 5. Once again, this is just it's a roster that has the talent, they have the pieces, but they just haven't seemed to be able to quite put it together yet. They've been incredibly inconsistent. I mean, they looked obviously really good in the series that they beat Optic, but they'll come out and lose to Era the next in the next match. So it's just they haven't quite gelled, which is kind of understandable. I mean, Aqua is still a fairly recently acquired player. So I think it's a little early to just completely write Echo Fox off, because I still think you've got to give this roster more time to gel and develop chemistry. But so far, I'm sure they're disappointed with their results. But they're a team that I think could make some noise at Atlanta. It'll be interesting to see which Echo Fox we get. It's kind of similar to Optic. Because they have the talent, they just gotta put it together. As we keep going down, Era. Not much to say for the rest of these teams. I mean, Vitality obviously was just largely uncompetitive. Mind Freak, competed at times, but not too much to say there as well. And then Era, obviously, Era's just thankful that they didn't get relegated. So that's obviously good news for them. And that's really all I have to say as far as Division A goes. It finished largely, I think, as most of us expected. Maybe not at the beginning of when it started, but based on each team's form, I just think it kind of goes down it was what everyone thought, basically. But with that said, I'm gonna go ahead and switch topics. And my next topic of the day is going to be, I hate to bring it up again, but gentlemen's agreements. I know this is a topic that I talked about last episode. I've been pretty critical of gentlemen's agreements. I'm still critical of gentlemen's agreements. They are fucking stupid and petty, and they need to go. And I made a post about this on the competitive COD subreddit the other night, and I'm really and my basic question is that I don't understand why MLG and the guys at CWL are so hesitant or slow to update the rule set. My example was that, look, we have a major LAN coming up in a week, and there is no reason that Duelist shouldn't be officially banned by then. There's no reason. We all agree that Duelist has no place in competitive COD. It just doesn't. I mean, we saw what it does. It doesn't take skill. It's not competitive. It has no place in competitive COD. Every COD title, every previous competitive COD title has had Duelist banned. There's no place for it. And I'm gonna be pretty disappointed if it's not officially banned, because if it's just gentleman's agreement, then there's no, some open bracket team could just whip that shit out and screw and just completely fuck things up for a team that's quote a part of the gentleman's agreement. I mean, it's just, this is such a petty issue. This is such a petty issue because it's an issue that shouldn't be an issue. First of all, we got a lot of fucking problems in the competitive COD scene. We all know it. And we got a lot bigger problems that need our focus and attention. And this is not one of those issues. This should not be one of those issues. This is an issue that we're just wasting time with. And what I mean by that is that there needs to be a better dialogue between the pros, the fans, the community, and MLG/CWL, because this is an issue that we have control over. And by we, I mean MLG/CWL, the pros, and the community. We have control over this. Sledgehammer does not decide the rule set. We get to decide the rule set. MLG/CW, they get to decide the rule set. We already tried fucking when the developers try to get involved with the rule set. That didn't go too well in Black Ops 3, as most of you recall. So we have the control. I mean, there's nothing, I haven't seen any evidence to the contrary. I mean, the fact that we had an established rule set before the game, right as the game was even released, indicates to me that we have control over this. So why hasn't Duelist been banned? Why hasn't Duelist officially been banned? I don't get it. I mean, I would love to, I'd love to have a serious discussion about this. I'm not trying to sound condescending or anything like that. I really want to know, like, what is the reasoning? And my only, I guess, somewhat answer to that is that my guess is that, so let's start by going over what officially, well, not officially, what allegedly is in the gentleman's agreements. So supposedly, what all is in the gentleman's agreements is as follows: Duelists, M1 Garand, all single-shot semi-auto rifles, the FG-42, the Thompson, and shotguns. Okay, I don't understand a majority of these agreements. Okay, the only two I really understand are Duelist and the Garand. The Garand, to me, is a very similar situation that we had back in Black Ops 2 with the FAL. I know that the Garand has a cap on the fire rate, but a two-shot rifle just doesn't belong in competitive. It just doesn't. I mean, any gun that kills in 2 bullets, it does not require a whole lot of skill to use. So I ultimately I do agree that the Garand doesn't belong in competitive Call of Duty, but all these other ones I don't get. I really don't. I mean, just to start, the FG-42 is perfectly fine after this most recent update. It's not that fucking good. It's really not. The fire rate is really low. There's no reason the FG-42 should still be the gentleman's agreement, in my opinion. Obviously, this is all my opinion, but I think it's important. I think it's important not just for me, but for everyone to voice their opinions about this and to have substantive discussions about it. Because I don't think because I completely disagree with the pros on a lot of these bans. Like I just said, the FG-42, and then we go down the list. Single shot rifles. I'm skeptical about this too, because have the pros really thoroughly tested this and concluded that it has no place in competitive COD? I'm doubtful about that. This most recent patch came out, what, a week ago? 2 weeks ago, I think? I mean, when did they test it? When were they able to test it? Thoroughly test it. I'm not talking about playing one fucking map with it and getting shit on with it and deciding it's OP and it needs to be banned. Because I think, in my opinion, it's important to have the game be as close to casual, excuse me, let me reword that. I think it's very important for the game to be as close to pubs while maintaining competitive integrity. That to me is is what's most important when we talk about banning things. And a majority of these bans don't hit competitive integrity. They don't hurt competitive integrity. I don't believe they do. The FG-42 after the most recent patch does not. Single shot rifles, I'm not going to act like I know enough to have a firm opinion on them because I haven't played a lot with them since the most recent update, but I'm doubtful that the pros have thoroughly tested it. But maybe they have. I don't want to completely discredit them, but I mean, we go down the list. I mean, the Thompson. Why the hell is the Thompson a part of the gentleman's agreements? If that gun is OP, then what the fuck is the PPSH? I mean, give me a break. Like, the Thompson is so situational. It's only good at really extreme close range. I mean, why? There's no logic behind the Thompson being a part of the gentleman's agreements. There really isn't. That's a lazy ban. That's a lazy excuse. I need reasoning. I want to hear what the reasoning is behind not just the Thompson, but all of the items in the gentleman's agreements. And not wanting to play with them is not a good enough reason. It's just not. You need to have a better argument to make a claim that the Thompson doesn't belong in competitive Call of Duty. And I have not seen any evidence to suggest that it should be in the gentleman's agreements or banned from competitive COD. I just don't. It's an incredibly situational gun. The PPSH is better in well over 50% of situations. I don't get it. And then we go down the list. Shotguns, same thing, even more so. Shotguns are completely useless in 80% of situations. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me. Black Ops 2. If we applied the same logic in Black Ops 2, the Scorpion would have been banned, the Remington would have been banned, which both weren't. And I think we can all agree that one of the many traits about Black Ops 2 that made it so good was the gun diversity. And if you start banning all these guns that are in no way, shape, or form OP, then we're really going to hurt gun diversity. We're going to go back to a fucking 2 to 3 gun meta like we have now, which is stupid. It's just you have to have like to me, if you're going to ban a gun from competitive COD, it needs to be OP in a competitive setting. LMGs are OP in a competitive setting because you don't have to reload them hardly ever. They're just laser beams. You know, they don't belong in competitive COD. Shotguns, if you're using a shotgun, like I said, shotguns are the most situational gun in the game because they're completely useless in well over 50% of situations because their fucking, range is obviously so short. And I don't get it. I don't get why shotguns are in the gentleman's agreements. It's just, and no, you know what? I do know why they're in the gentleman's. It's because pros don't want to play with them. That's all it is. That's all it is. They don't want to play with them. And that's not a good enough reason. That's just not a good enough reason to convince me or a lot of us. I know I'm not the only one that holds these opinions. That's not a good enough reason to have the gun banned. You need to provide more evidence and a better argument as to why that gun should be banned. And then we keep going down the list, the Car 98. Why is this gun in the gentleman's agreements? I mean, after the most recent update, the ADS time, the only problem with the car was the ADS time. That got nerfed. What's the problem with it now? I don't get it. It's not, I mean, all these guns, and I guess maybe I'm kind of contradicting myself because I started by kind of harping on MLG /CWL to update the rule set, but then again, the pros. I mean, if this alleged list that is a part of the gentleman's agreements that are all true. So we go down again. So Duelist, M1 Garand, single shot semi-auto rifles, the Thompson, shotguns, Car 98. I think that's everything. I might be missing something, but that's everything that's allegedly in the gentleman's agreements as of now. And the only two, like I said, I understand, are the Garand and the Duelist. You're going to have to make a much stronger case for all the rest of them because I don't get it. I really don't get it. And this is an issue, like I said, it needs to be resolved quickly. This is not an issue that we need to be focusing our attention on because it shouldn't even be a fucking issue. And I think it goes without saying. What the pros play, what's the rule? Okay, the rule set for ranked play, game battles, wagers, and at the pro level needs to be the same. This is true in every other esport. There is one rule set for competitive. One rule set, and that's how it needs to be. And right now, that ain't the case. It's just not the case. The pros are playing almost an entirely different game than SND stars because they're using Duelist, because they're using the Garand, because they're using the FG. That's not fair to amateurs. I mean, amateurs are playing in a different meta than what the pros are playing. How are they expected to move up the ladder that way? It's ridiculous. And then that, ranked play. The whole point of ranked play is to play what the pros are playing. So it's just it's nonsensical. It's ridiculous. This is really incumbent upon both the pros and MLG /CWL having a constructive dialogue and efficiently updating the rule set. But let me also say that the pros need to provide a better argument and good, solid evidence and reasoning, and this is Probably asking too much of some of them, because a lot of them are pretty fucking lazy, to be honest. And they just won't do it. But you can't just ban something because you don't like playing with it. That's not a good enough reason. You need to provide more evidence to it. And, you know, I get really hot and bothered about this issue because it's like I said earlier, we have bigger fish to fry. We have a lot of much more impactful and major issues within the competitive Call of Duty scene, and this is not one that we should even be talking about. So I'm going to keep harping on this because it's an issue that I think does not get discussed enough, and it's a problem that needs to be fixed. And I will keep harping on it until it gets fixed. And I know I may come off as preachy again, but I mean I'm going to continue to voice my opinion, and I think everyone should. And it's a discussion that I would love to have with more people. You know, hopefully once I am able to get on guests, you know, I can have someone with a different perspective on this. Hopefully if I can get a pro on, I'd love to have a pro on and hear their perspective on the whole issue. You know, we'll see what happens, but you know, that's really all I have to say on that issue. With that said, you know, the last topic I really wanted to touch on was, this is kind of be a little brief here, but just to wrap things up here on today's episode, is Gibraltar, man. Golly. The Gibraltar spawns, and I know this has been a hot topic and it's been discussed a lot already, but it cannot be said enough how fucking awful the spawns on Gibraltar are. I mean, my God, they're just terrible. And it's baffling that I'm wondering. My biggest question though with this topic is that is the map Gibraltar, is the actual map design horrible, or is it the spawns? Because people always talk about how terrible of a map it is, and my question is that if Sledgehammer comes, and hopefully they, you know, praise to the COD gods, they will come out with an update that tweaks the hardpoint spawns. You know, will that make the map a good map? And I think the map itself is largely a decent map. It's a decently designed map. It's not great. I think there's too many head glitches, and I think that the middle of the map's a bit of a clusterfuck. And then I think that the spawns on each side are a little too deep. But overall, I don't think it's a terrible map. It's you know, it's 3-laned. It flows pretty well. If the spawns get fixed, it does require anchoring and playing for spawns, which is always a positive in hardpoint. So I'm just wondering, and I think this is a testament to a larger issue with the maps in general, is that, you know, London Docks also, I think, has spawn problems, and I'm wondering, like, I think London Docks as a map, the map design of London Docks is pretty good. It's a pretty well designed map. I think London Docks is pretty clearly the best map in the game, in my opinion, because it's a relatively well designed map. I think that like if London Docks, if they can fix the spawns on London Docks, you're talking about a pretty fucking solid map. So, you know, I think that's. It's a problem on a lot of the maps. It's just the hardpoint spawns, they need some work. And Gibraltar is at number one, man. That, golly, I can't believe we are I can't believe it's in the competitive rotation with the way it is right now. It's pretty baffling, but you know, I will say that from what I've seen from Valkyrie so far, I think that seems like it's going to be a pretty good map, which is nice. I think it's a nice change of pace. You know, it's a close quarters map. It's a fast map. It's a map that you're going to see maybe 1 to 2 ARs on at most. A lot of teams have been running 4 subs on it, so I think that you know, Valkyrie is a nice change of pace. I'm hoping that the spawns can get fixed on Gibraltar because, you know, like I said, I really think the map itself isn't too bad. I think it's a decent map. It's just the spawns, man. It's just the spawns. Hopefully Sledgehammer gets on it, and I think that we need to do our best to make a point and to bring light to the problem, because it's a serious problem that needs fixing immediately, ASAP. But with that said, guys, I think that's all I wanted to touch on today. Sorry for being, you know, so negative. I hate to come across as like condescending or negative. I'm passionate about competitive Call of Duty, and I have strong opinions, and I just feel the need to voice my opinions, and I think it's important for not just me, but for everyone in the competitive Call of Duty to have a constructive dialogue and constructive debate and discussion, and in order to better the scene. I think that's what it's all about. So with that said, guys, thanks for tuning in, and my next episode will be a CWL Atlanta preview, so be on the lookout for that. With that said, guys, have a good weekend, and I will catch y'all next week.